Quincy Jones is an icon in the entertainment world. His award-winning music has won him many followers. But music is not the only thing that Quincy is passionate about. He has another dream: to help children.
It's something that I just feel the bottom of my heart, and I know as long as I breathe that it would be committed to this.
In 1990, Quincy started the Listen Up Foundation and made his vision to bridge the gap between privilege and poverty a reality. Listen Up includes a variety of programs. A television program called Say It Loud that teaches about civil rights and music's role in history.
Music is God's gift to this world.
A radio program called Listen Up Radio, a teen-operated radio show where teens have the opportunity to have their voices heard. And a hands-on house-building program which sponsors teens to travel to South Africa to build homes for disadvantaged children.
They came back whole human beings and changed human beings.
And now they are mentoring other kids. Join me as I talk with Quincy Jones and find out how this Chicago native, whose childhood was also a struggle, broke into the music business, started Listen Up, and now has everyone listening. Welcome. I'm Dr. Gail Gross. I'm delighted you could join me today. It's hard to know where to begin when it comes to introducing my guest. Quincy Jones is one of the most successful and admired creative artists and executives in the entertainment world. His career has encompassed virtually every medium: magazines, movies, television, recording, and live performance. He has had 77 Grammy nominations. That's more than anyone else in the industry. He has had 26 wins, including for the best-selling single of all time and my personal favorite, We Are the World. He also produced the best-selling album of all time, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and he won an Emmy for his theme for the historic miniseries Roots, and executive produced the Oscars in 1996. He has served as executive producer on many successful TV shows. He scored 33 major motion pictures and co-produced the Oscar-nominated The Color Purple. And if that's not enough, he also is the founder and chairman of Vibe magazine, part owner of Spin magazine, and is chairman and CEO of Quest Broadcasting, one of the largest minority-owned broadcasting companies in the United States. And I would like to add that Quincy, in spite of all of his remarkable achievements, is a humble person, a humanitarian who is focused on improving the world. That's what we're going to talk about today. His program, the Listen Up Foundation. Welcome, Quincy.
Thank you. My God, I couldn't follow that.
You have led it.
My God.
You are really a wonderful example to all of us. And I want to get from you a sense of where did you get the idea for the Listen Up Foundation?
Well, I think that in a way the idea kind of found me. I've been around the world many times, and when I used to go to some places like in North Africa and India and Pakistan, I'd see that the hope had been just taken from the children, by whatever means. And these children, they had little white, clean socks every day, and I'd see the kids standing at the blackboards, 8 years old, protected by their elders from any of the psychological disadvantages, external psychological disadvantages. And it touched me very much, and so it always gave me a lot of hope for them. And so whatever there was an opportunity to try to see what there was something to do, we were always there. Darrow, who runs the foundation, she decided to help me out with a dream I had for a long time, which was to make the experiment of taking over highly at-risk South Central kids. Yes. To see what effect this would have on them. There's a third of the people wake up every day in the world. They have $2 for their entire family. They have to decide whether it goes for food, for education, or health. and that's really intolerable. And it's that's the real target, and that starts with a lot of things. Naturally, you have to go through a pandemic like, and do what everybody can about a pandemic like the AIDS virus, and but right immediately after that, there's a question of economic viability, because you're talking about people where a large majority of the country is living in cardboard boxes for 30 years with no water, no electricity. So. It's a very, you have to really understand all of it to do anything about any one element, and so we've done our best to share the information. Everybody that's on this team, let's get it together and do it. It's not a question of talking about one of these days and everything. You have to do it now. You have to do something. Whatever you know how to do, you have to do it now.
You know, there's a saying that when a butterfly flaps its wings in Africa, it affects the whole world.
Yes, it does.
And in a sense, this change that happens in Africa will change the world, because we, even in our country, are dealing with the impoverished,
yes.
having the discrimination of the digital divide yes. also.
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
It really is.
And you're closing the gap and showing a model for how to do it. And that gets me to your mentoring program.
Yes. I'd say, well, see, that was interesting, the day of the inauguration. Gail, that day, and I think Colin Powell commented on it, he says in one day, this country has leaped over every country in the world, because they went from apartheid to peace with the country being run by the people that were political prisoners all this time. That's 27 years, and it was just an amazing day, you know. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, I was just going to say, I wanted you to explain, because you introduced me to two young women, and I know also there are many young men whose lives were totally changed by your program, Listen Up. And now they are mentoring other kids, and not only mentoring, but have found such a sense of importance in their own self-esteem.
Exactly.
Tell us about that mentoring program.
It was like they found the fountain of the spirit of their own existence. It was yes. amazing, because they had experienced, at 17 to 22 years old, we had 3 girls and 2 boys, and 2 Hispanic and 3 African American, and they had done everything. I mean, incest, drugs, abuse, 3 generations of uncles and so forth that had been lost to the Crips and the Bloods, the gangs and so forth. So we had 2 choices. They could get over there, and Lord knows there's plenty of crime over there too. We could have been the genesis of one of the biggest crack cartels on the planet, or else we gambled on the other thing happening, and that's what happened. They met Mr. Mandela, and they realized he was a human being, and they got on their knees and they cried, and they saw the 800 kids in a parliamentary debate, all of their parents deceased from the disease, and half of them infected with it, and they had a parliamentary debate split in 2 segments. These are young little kids, so yes. 11 to maybe 17 years old, and yes. it was officiated by 15-year-olds. And they were going back and forth. Is it abstinence or condoms, or what does it take for them to live longer? It was absolutely amazing. Mandela was there, and all of our staff, and these kids too. So little by little, they got it real fast. Number one, the spirit of South Africa, which is so strong. They had never been in that situation, where it was a black country that was ruled by a man like Mandela. Yeah. No countries experienced that.
Yes.
And we went down to Johannesburg afterwards and started to fulfill a promise we made to Mr. Mandela on his 80th birthday to build 100 homes with Habitat for Humanity. And they rolled up their sleeves and got busy with that, with the bricks and mortar. And they mentioned to me, and that was interesting, because I was just observing, and they said, Omari, one of the young boys, he said, I thought I was in poverty in Compton, but I have a pair of Adidas, and I have a pair of shoes, I have 2 shirts, and I have a little refrigerator, nothing in it, but I have a refrigerator. They've never even seen a refrigerator before. Wow. And so he cried most of the time. We went to the churches in Alexandra, we went to the home of Adelaide and Dali Tambo, and you could just feel the culture, every aspect. In fact, when we walked into her home, it was the most dramatic thing I could ever imagine, because I had these kids with me at the door. Now, they've never been in South Africa before, and I've been at Adelaide's house many times. We opened the door. The South African vocal sound is a sound like nothing on the planet. That's the sound that was in Graceland with Paul Simon.
Yes.
It is so big, and it's so big because they never are used to microphones, so they sing very loud and powerful and in tune and very emotional. And so she opened the door, and they were all lined up on the steps, maybe 55 singers. Whoa! And it was just the most incredible, dramatic entrance for them to walk into South Africa. They were just like startled. Anyway, to make a long story short, they came back whole human beings and changed human beings. That to Lizette's credit and to the people in the organization, they kept in contact with them. We gave some funds to their community organizations, and they are now very powerful and effective leaders in their own communities. They go to the jails, the detention homes, and talk to the other kids about, hey, let's try this way. Because it's just energy that's redirected. Yes. A gang leader that sells dope is you know he can deal with math and strategic
and leadership,
and all of that. You know, so they're really CEOs going down the wrong path. Really.
Exactly.
And we found that to be true, very much so. And it's a great feeling because now it's a template for us, and we can go much further.
If you were a Hindu or a Buddhist, you'd say the last third of my life is service. But
that's right.
Something in your life grabbed this, and it's Act 3.
Act 3 is service.
What do you think in your life made you grab onto this, onto Listen Up? And I do want to tell you that I remember that Listen Up was the name of your biography, the film on your life and career.
Exactly. Courtney Ross did a documentary on my life, called Listen Up, and it. She did a film and a video, and I had a record out then back on the block. And her husband, Steve Ross, who was one of my mentors and great friends, he was ill, and then we lost him, and so we had to put it on the back burner for a while. And then when we came back, like this time, we said we're going to make this meaningful to Steve and to all of our ideals, and we're going all the way through with this now. Take it to the max.
So the name Listen Up really comes from that. Pay
attention,
Pay attention.
Exactly.
When I tell parents how to communicate with their children, I always say, listen to them. And so it was so amazing to me that you made that connection, because actually Listen Up is listening to the problem and connecting it to the rest of the world.
That's right. We have probably have a perception now that this is the most violent, barbaric time ever in history, but that's not true.
No.
If they had CNN on Genghis Khan and some of those clowns, it would be ridiculous. And the Armenians, the Turks, and the Bosphorus, it would be outrageous what would be on TV. Now, it's like a plane accident. A plane accident is rare, and so it's big. It commands big attention. But sure, it's crazy out there now, but nothing like it was in the past. So. The more that's exposed, I think the media sometimes is irresponsible, because they make a lot of big things out of things that don't deserve that kind of attention. And they hardly ever concentrate on what's done right.
Yes.
I'd like to see the people that get it right get a little bit more attention, because you don't have to be chained up after a spray down at 5 o'clock in some fast food place, to be able to 6 o'clock news and have everybody talking about you.
And in a sense, your Listen Up Radio is working on that very theme. You're teaching kids to take those very responsible roles, actually make choices and decisions, and feel what it feels like to be productive, to work hard, all the things that we think of as the goals for a good life.
Absolutely.
Tell us about Listen Up Radio.
Well, Listen Up Radio is going to be a network of kids that that use that technology for their personal needs. I had a friend named Alan Hayes that graduated from MIT and Harvard, and a preacher kind of guilted him into not going further into the commercial world, but going back into the neighborhood and taking his knowledge back home. And he went to the gangbangers and really pursued them, and it was not easy. It took them a long time before the trust was of high level to come in, and they'd come in every night, and then they said, okay, CompUServe these things, great, we want to do something else. We want to do crime watch, and food banks and so forth, and then things that are more helpful to the community, because it's pliable and flexible enough to have it applied to whatever is necessary, where it's going to help, and it should be done through each person's own sensibility and based on their culture and their surroundings. And so that internet of kids feeling that they do have a voice, because many times, you were trapped. I come all the way back from radio, so that's the Stone Ages, But radio was good for our imagination because we could imagine things.
Exactly.
It stimulated our imagination rather. Sometimes TV, they play songs, and it tells you every emotion to feel, every frame.
And it's being resurrected, really. Talk radio, because people feel engaged and heard, listened to, that they can be interactive. So to put kids, it's almost an education evolution that you're starting.
Yes.
And the computer idea and the idea of giving access is not just for South Africa. Your plan is to take it country by country by country.
Absolutely. And Alan Kay, who's one of my close friends for about 25 years now, and he was the Apple Fellow, one of the men involved in PRAC, the Palo Alto Research Center. I mean, he's the closest thing I've ever known to Einstein. He's sometimes I said, Alan, slow down, let me catch up with you. He is so brilliant. He had a lot to do with the development of Mac 1, Mac 2, overlapping windows. I had a dream 10 years ago when he was still at Apple. And I said, that most of the time the urban kids, especially at-risk kids, they have a tendency to reject everything that feels institutionalized and authoritarianism and everything. That's normal, because that's just the history of the country. And I said, what would happen if you wanted the granddaddies of the Mac 1 and Mac 2, let's try Mac Daddy 3. And let them design it and design it look like they want it to do, use the language they want on it and everything, so they feel a part of it. And I know that it'll inspire millions of kids to get involved in it. And so Alan, after he left Disney just recently, he said, Quincy, let's go. We're going to fulfill that dream, and we're going to do it.
Wow,
that is very, very exciting, That
really is exciting, because that whole creative model for education is something now that they're re-entering in education, the idea of connecting kids to art and music. I'm so interested in the story of Say It Loud. Tell us about that.
Say It Loud touches on a subject, Gail, that probably is the most important, artistic feelings I have now. And it's about keeping the entire family of black music together.
Yes.
Because they have tendencies to run out the back door, and run across the street and leave home, run away from home. And I started, this is my sixth decade in music, and I started with, way back there with Victrolas and all that funky music and big bands and Earl Hines and all those things and Lonnie Johnson, because I was listening to blues and big bands and jazz and everything. And I fell in love with all of it. When we were in Seattle as young people, I was 14 years old and Ray Charles was 16. And we our typical night, we play a tennis club, a white tennis club with bow ties on and everything, a room full of roses, and to each his own, all the pop music with cup music and dinner music and all that. Then we'd go to the Washington Social Club, Educational Social Club. I will never understand that title because there was nothing educational about it. Reverend Silas Gross was the proprietor. And we played for strippers and rhythm and blues and dances. We used to dance, and we had comedy teams and just pure hardcore rhythm and blues. Then at 2 o'clock, we'd get off and we'd change our clothes. We'd go down to Jackson Street, which is a red light district, and we'd play bebop all night for free because nobody ever paid for bebop, ever. And in school, you're playing Sousa, you're playing Debussy, and you're playing all the classical things, the schottisches and polkas,
Yes.
So we were almost, our environment demanded that we play every kind of music, and so it never was a stretch. And so Say It Loud is about the family that with gospel, the African heritages and all the diaspora, all the heritage, the legacies from there, and the blues walk right straight out of the church door. Doody doo doody doo doody doo 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 doo. Then they'd sing about Jesus in church, and after 1865, they'd sing about whiskey and women and travel on the road and
the
so
whole
forth.
spectrum.
Yes, that's right.
Life.
But it's the same music, though.
Yes.
The words just shifted a little bit, and it's that organic kind of metamorphosis of each genre that just bled into the other one, and then out of that we deal into jazz and so forth. Coming out of New Orleans, thank God, because we had Virginia, the Protestant, and we had the Catholic, French and Spanish New Orleans, which accommodated the freedom to express that kind of music, because it was repressive, on the East Coast.
Right.
Because they banned the drums in 1692. Communication is scary, trying to break up families, etc. So they cut it into jazz and, the big bands and rhythm and blues, doo-wop, or rap and everything else. So I constantly love to try to contain whole and find a way to include all of the members of that family at all times, Mm-hmm. And I think Back on the Block was the best example of it, because at one point we had a young kid from America, Kevin Campbell, singing in Zulu with the Andre Crouch Gospel Choir singing the backgrounds to it, plus gospel, and we're playing jazz, we're playing hip hop and rap and everything, all in one umbrella. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I mean, I'm a gumbo maniac. I love gumbo, and it is gumbo. It's America's musical gumbo.
It's America.
Yes, it is. It is, and that's the melting pot. Is what this country is all about. And so, I am always soapboxing about let's let it all live. I don't mind. I love Mos Def. I love Jay-Z, but I don't want to give up Coltrane for that.
Right.
I can have it all.
Right.
The rappers and Coltrane and Louis and Roy Eldridge and Dizzy and Miles and Bird. And I just believe in that. And I think that our government and our school system will be highly deficient if they don't get that together, because I cannot believe in Germany for 1 minute that they don't have a mandatory course in Brahms, Beethoven, and Bach. That's why the music is still alive, because it's very precious music. Music is God's gift to this world.
Exactly.
You can't smell it, you can't taste it, you can't eat it, you can't see it or anything else. It's just engulfs you all the time. I dare anybody on this planet to try to get through 3 weeks without a note of music. You couldn't make it.
No.
We take it for granted. It's on television, it's in dental offices, and all of the commercials. We couldn't handle it if there was just absence the day the music stopped.
Yeah.
It'd be a very dramatic I think it'd be a very sad situation.
This is a connecting.
Pardon?
This is a connecting in a sense.
Yes, it is, and people depend on it almost like vitamin deficiencies in food, for their soul and everything.
Yes.
And what I think is the real irony of it is that I've spent a lot of time in Europe. Every country in the world, including Japan, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, they are patrons of the music. The radio stations are patrons of jazz bands. Our music.
Yeah.
And they are the patrons that are nurturing it and keeping it continuing. The oldest jazz magazines in the world come from the Orchestra Journal, comes from Sweden. And in America, for the most part, and I've had this discussion with the Gores and the Clintons when they were in office, we need a minister of culture. We really do. France has one. We get our Legion of Honor awards.
It's a great idea, really.
We need it so badly, because it's our soul. It's number one, it came from here, and it's our soul. And it's treated like some little stepchild.
In fact, I can't remember the Jungian who said it's the language of the soul.
Yeah,
actually.
yes, it is.
And it connects all people, because you don't have to know the language to know you love it and feel good from it.
And that's a good feeling when you travel. We go to Yugoslavia, and the guys meet us at the airport. Not a word. I spoke about 15 words in Serbo Croatian now. Not a word. And they smile at each other, and they help us take our horns and bags to the hotel. Then they run over to their house and the piano, get on the piano, and everybody understands everybody.
Amazing. In a way, it's all of our roots, really. It just really reconnects us to that which we are. What can people out there do to help listen up?
Number one, they can go to the website,
Yes.
to Jones'sListenUpFoundation.com, and see what we're about.
I know that from your own experience, so much of this is so profound and meaningful to where you are today, which is really a spiritual journey. But on that note, on my talk radio show, I always ask our guests, what was the defining moment in your life? And they're never prepared for it, as you are not. But I must ask you, what was the defining moment in your life, Quincy?
Well, I feel there are several, but if I had to go back and pick one that I think that made a major, major, major difference, that's what you mean, right?
Yes.
Was coming from Chicago. I was raised in Chicago. I put a lot of this stuff in my book. It was painful to think about because I never wanted to look back. But my mother was in a mental hospital when I was 5 or 6. And we, in a way, had to kind of discover who we were. John Bradshaw, who wrote Homecoming, says, nurturing and reclaiming of the inner child. If you don't have a male and female caretaker before the age of 9 who nurtures, validates you, and helps you grow and loves you, you have a hole in you that you fill the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Try to fill the rest of your life. Okay, so we had several holes going on. And my brother and I and the stepbrother and so forth, we went to Washington at the age of 10 on a bus. We had to leave Chicago. It was coming out of Depression into World War II. And we were thugs. There's no two ways. I can't make it any cuter than that. We were thugs. And we did whatever to burn down dance halls, stores, and robbing, and everything you could do. Because we didn't know where to put our energy. And the segregation puts you in a place where you didn't have a choice, even in the Northwest at that time. So in the process of breaking into a recreation center one night, which was basketball and everything was in the dancing, we broke in the middle of the night to go get the lemon meringue pie and ice cream. We heard the new shipment was
my all-time favorite.
And thugs know what's going on. So we broke in there about midnight, and we ate the ice cream and the pie, and we've had pie fights after that because we were full. And we started to roam around individually in the armory, and I went and broke into this room. We would break into everything, and it turned out to be one of the administrative rooms, administration rooms. And I saw in the shadows over in the corner was a little spinet piano, and I almost closed the door. And fortunately, you know, you get a chance to listen to God's whisper and say, "Go back in that room." And I did, and I went over to the piano and touched it. And that changed my entire life. You know, from there, I said, "This is it." I don't know. It was a lot of things. It was a replacement for mother, not understanding what the word mother meant, but it was definitely a replacement, a compensation. And can't think of any moment that changed my life more than that. And from there on in, I was locked to that piano and staying up at night till my eyes bled, trying to write music. I didn't even understand key signatures and playing all the brass instruments in the band and everything else. And I knew that was it.
And look what happened. You changed the world. Well, in the final analysis, we are the world, and we can make a difference, one person at a time, one day at a time, and even one action at a time. This is Dr. Gail Gross saying, learning is a lifelong experience, and it's never too late to do something to make the world a better place for you and me. Thank you, Quincy.
Thank you. You could change the world a little bit. You are changing the world.
Thank you.
You're a beautiful lady.
You are great. Thank you.